artist? I mean, can everybody draw? Can you? Because you're a person who can pull that artistic ability out of people, help them with
Absolutely.
creativity. So if people say they're not, it's more like they just don't want to try.
Yes and no, because I don't think, I mean, yes, you're right. Everybody has the capacity to draw. If you can throw and catch a ball, you have eye-hand coordination and you can learn to draw what you see. I could teach you. I could teach you right now. I could give you some exercises to practice until you were really, really good. And they're guaranteed to work because I've seen it for 40 years work on everybody, no matter where they start, no matter where they can learn to draw. So yes, everybody can learn to draw. It is an absolute truism. And you know, the difference is, do I want to? Do I want to learn to draw? And not everybody says yes to that. But I believe that everybody has ways to be creative.
Mhm.
And that's how we balance that left brain, right brain. The left brain was really created to serve the right brain because it's you know, and I believe we're spirit beings, and that is our connection to the spiritual world, is that sensitive, right, intuitive part of us. When people say, I got it from my gut, you know, they point to their belly, their gut. But how does that gut communicate to you? It communicates as you get sensitive to listening to your right brain, listening to that still small voice, if you would, that is guiding or giving you insight that you couldn't have, you couldn't read it in a book, or you couldn't get it on in that moment, you know, that you can get. And so as you develop and allow that right brain to breathe and to grow and to be healed and be developed, you're going to find more of that happens for you. More solutions that aren't just left brain accessed. And of course, when you draw, you're actually using your left brain through the act of drawing. So it's a good way to build those neural connections between left brain and right brain. And I have a great story about that. I had a young man who took art from me for years. He had learning disabilities. He had ADHD. He also had dyslexia. So academics were very hard for him. His mother was homeschooling him and brought him to my studio. And he developed great drawing and painting and sculpting skills. I also teach ceramics. He did great job. And it gave him, you know, just a little more confidence in his adolescent and teen years to try and get through his academic stuff, because he did graduate. But when he was just before graduation, he entered I entered his work in the largest youth art competition in the Low Country, and he won not only his age group, but he won best in show for this incredible batik he did in my studio. 3 months later, he had a traumatic brain injury from a brain infection that caused him to have a stroke and paralyzed him on the right side. He's almost 18 years old. Now he's paralyzed. And they didn't expect him to live, but he did. He couldn't talk, he couldn't communicate. He used communication when you were introducing me, and this is a really big deal because we are humans and we need ways to communicate how we feel or what we think to each other. And there was David stuck inside of his head, and he couldn't talk. He couldn't use his right hand. It was trying to curl up. They've worked really hard to get it so it wouldn't curl up. Couldn't walk yet. So 4 months of rehab. They finally released him from the hospital. His mama brought him right to my studio. And I endeavored to teach him to draw left-handed. And it was a surprise to all of us when he very quickly was drawing as good left-handed as he could right-handed. He also then could write. Now he could write. Well, it wasn't long after that, I got a call from his neurosurgeon. He said, what are you doing with this young man? He said, I've never called anybody's art teacher before, but he is better with his weak hand than I am, and I'm a surgeon. Not only that, he is developing his speech, his right hand, and use of his right side. So what is going, just keep doing what you're doing, because I couldn't explain the science of it. I'm not a neurosurgeon, obviously, but the neural pathways he had already been developing, left brain, right brain connection, were still there. His prefrontal cortex was damaged. He still struggles a little bit with his speech, but he can talk now. Great. He walks. You can hardly see any limp whatsoever, but he's still writing and drawing with his left hand because he can do it as good. And this is not somebody that was left-handed. Okay. He was somebody totally right-handed. So I saw the ability of art to heal, and it just got me very, very excited. Another example is in Walter Reed Hospital in the last few years, bringing soldiers back with, traumatic brain injuries and PTSD. They put them through some therapeutic exercises to help them mentally and emotionally. And when they all left, they said their very favorite thing to do was the art. Now, these are soldiers, so they're not used to being artists, right? But they all loved what they were doing, and it brought peace. And you were talking about the stress of life as business people, that cortisone gets released when we do something that makes us happy. And just the act of looking at art releases serotonin, which is the happiness chemical. So there is a connection in the brain when you do something that brings beauty. We're the only created beings that appreciate beauty. And so, just appreciating your beautiful bridge, that they just built in your town, or the beautiful skies or trees, water. I live near the beach. So it releases something in your soul that reduces that cortisol that is stress and brings you peace. That's why people do a lot of breathing, deep breathing, but I'd rather look at beauty and get my joy that way. So it has been a great adventure seeing how doing art can bring healing to people.